Trump drops missile clips like movie trailers, slaps $100,000 on H-1B visas, bullies late night with FCC threats, and pushes a passport rule to mislabel people. Hello guys, I am Ben and you are watching America Facticity.
And I'm Alex. I brought receipts, a shovel, and a little dark humor for the compost pile of bad ideas. 15 headlines on deck, all fresh, all time-stamped. If you came for vibes, wrong channel. If you came for facts with a side of roast, pull up a chair.
Friday, September 19th, Trump boasts that U.S. forces blew up another alleged drug boat in the SOUTHCOM region and killed 3 narcoterrorists. He posted the strike video like it's a summer blockbuster teaser. That makes 3 lethal strikes this month, after earlier hits on September 2nd and September 15th. The question is not whether a boat exploded. The question is what law authorized it. Reuters and AP both note the lack of detail on legal basis, and human rights groups are already using the phrase extrajudicial killings. The administration is quiet on the statute, loud on the sizzle reel.
Also, Venezuela is fuming. Some outlets say the first video looked AI-touched, and nobody stateside wants to say what standard of proof turns a fast hull into a lawful target. If the policy is missiles first and footnotes later, that is not counter-narcotics. That is political theater with live ammunition. Date it, pin it, question it. September 2nd, September 15, September 19. Pattern detected. Oversight missing.
One more layer. The U.S. has stacked warships and F-35s in the Caribbean, according to multiple reports, which looks less like interdiction and more like a new open-ended, whatever we need it to be mission set. If you are going to use lethal force outside declared war, explain the standard. Courts prefer citations to catchphrases.
Same day, different drama. Trump says President Recep Tayyip Erdogan will visit the White House on Thursday, September 25th. They will talk trade, F-16s, Boeing orders, and that awkward ghost at the banquet, the F-35 program Turkey got booted from for buying Russia's S-400s. Expect a big smile photo and fine print you can only read with a microscope.
Remember, you cannot plug NATO jets into Russian air defense without risking your secrets. Physics and cybersecurity do not care about photo ops. If the remarks pretend the F-35 split was a misunderstanding, that is revisionist fiction. Lock the date, Thursday, Sept 25. We will count the deliverables, not the adjectives. Trump says he will meet China's Xi Jinping next month on the sidelines of the APEC summit in South Korea. He's also implying movement on that ever-present TikTok divestment drama. On Friday, Sept 19th, Politico detailed the plan and the soft focus claims about an okay from Xi. The headline is not deal, it is, we might be getting a meeting and maybe some progress. The substance will live in the term sheet, not the press gaggle.
Translation for your cousin who only reads the push alerts. A meeting is a selfie. A deal is a contract. Until you see ownership, data control, and enforcement, it is campaign fog with fireworks. Put a pin in October. This one matters to anyone who cares about privacy, creators, and how tech gets weaponized in politics. Also Friday, the administration dropped a policy grenade. A new proclamation requires an annual $100,000 fee per H-1B worker per year, starting essentially now. Immigration Counsel and reporters confirmed the text and the timing. It is a bright neon sign telling skilled workers to pick literally any other country. This is not targeted reform. It is expulsion by invoice.
Notice who gets hit. Hospitals, chip fabs, labs, and startups. You cannot onshore the future while slamming the door on the people who build it. You either pay better, train faster, and expand visas smartly, or you watch Toronto and Bangalore send you postcards. The proclamation timing is late Friday, Sept 19, effective basically immediately into Sept 21 at 12:01 a.m. ET. Courts in 3, 2, 1. Thursday, September 18th, the Supreme Court set oral arguments for Tuesday, November 5th on lawsuits challenging Trump's sweeping tariffs. SCOTUS blog and Reuters both posted the schedule. The stakes are simple. Either the court reins in permanent emergency trade powers, or it hands the presidency a tariff magic wand. Your receipt total cares more than your timeline does.
If the justices bless this, tariffs become a ready-to-use campaign tool. If they clip it, cue refunds, rewrites, and a White House learning the word limits. If you want to know who really pays for political swagger, look at your grocery bill and contractor invoice. That is why November 5th is not just for court nerds. Also Friday, the administration asked the Supreme Court to let it enforce a passport rule that forces sex markers back to birth certificates, removing X, and blocking trans and non-binary Americans from carrying accurate identification. That is not a clerical tweak. That is a policy that increases harassment risk every time you cross a border. AP and SCOTUS blog have the filings.
A free country does not make your government ID a weapon against you. This is cruelty cut into squares and stamped with an eagle. The court's docket is getting crowded with one president's dream of micromanaging identity, markets, and central bankers. We will get to the Fed in a minute. The House jammed through a 7-week stopgap on Friday by a hair. Hours later, the Senate said no. Twice. One Republican-led plan failed. A Democratic alternative failed. That puts a hard shadow over September 30th at midnight, rolling into October 1st. Multiple outlets walked through the votes. We are now budgeting by roulette wheel.
When Congress pretends brinkmanship is virtue, TSA agents become unpaid security theater, park rangers become volunteers, and small contractors become collateral damage. Write it big on your whiteboard. Funding expires at midnight the night of September 30th, so October 1st is when lights start flickering. Deadlines are real, not rhetorical. The Kimmel story is a civics lesson that tastes like battery acid. ABC suspended Jimmy Kimmel Live after the late-night host criticized the political exploitation of Charlie Kirk's assassination. Then, FCC Chair Brendan Carr did tough guy podcasting about yanking licenses. Even Ted Cruz called that dangerous, comparing it to mob tactics. When Ted Cruz is the First Amendment hall monitor, you wandered into the uncanny valley.
ABC News pointed to the Supreme Court's Volo precedent, which says government threats that coerce private parties to suppress speech violate the First Amendment. Fire blasted Carr. Senate Democrats fired off a formal warning letter. Deadline and Variety captured how affiliate groups like Nexstar used preemption to sideline a national show market by market. That is how you chill speech without a single red button.
Here is the principle, not the partisan spin. A government with a stick is not just another speaker. Gravity bends around state power. If you normalize license threats because you dislike a monologue, you normalize them against your own side the next cycle. That is how free speech becomes a permission slip.
The administration just notified Congress it wants roughly $6 billion in weapons for Israel, including Apache helicopters and thousands of infantry vehicles. Reuters first, then AP, Newsweek, and others. The package lands while Gaza remains a humanitarian nightmare and while some Democrats push to condition offensive arms. This is not just a foreign story. It is a values story and a budget story.
You can support Israel's right to defend itself and still demand guardrails, end-use monitoring, and a plan that is more sophisticated than more boom. Congress should treat this like it treats a dangerous drug. Prescribe only with a diagnosis and a plan to prevent abuse. Dates matter. The asks hit Friday, September 19. DHS moved to terminate temporary protected status for more than 6,000 Syrians, with a 60-day clock to leave or face arrest and deportation. USCIS posted the alert. Reuters and the Post filled in detail. Syria is safer on paper than it is in life. This is policy that measures risk by press release.
Same drumbeat, different country. The administration also asked the Supreme Court to let it kill TPS for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans, even after lower courts found the earlier attempt unlawful. If you are keeping score at home, that is a lot of human lives moved like chess pawns to juice a talking point. Thursday, September 18th, the administration asked the Supreme Court for an emergency order to remove Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook. We have never had a president remove a sitting Fed governor. ABC, AP, and SCOTUS blog have chapter and verse. Whatever you think of monetary policy, this is a bright red line with "do not cross" painted on it.
Imagine setting interest rates with one eye on the Oval Office mood ring. Markets like numbers and rules. They do not like whims and vendettas. If the court indulges this, the Fed becomes a playlist, not an institution. That is how you get recessions with confetti cannons.
Back to China, because this is where geopolitics meets your pantry. Politico reported that Trump's call with Xi touched on critical minerals and ag exports. If the meeting happens next month at APEC, the test is whether farmers get something real or just a promise that dissolves by planting season. Announcements are easy, shipments are proof.
And if we get a TikTok understanding, read the footnotes. We have seen almost there more times than I have seen AirPods in a gym. Real deals have terms, dates, and consequences. Everything else is content. Step back. In 1 week, the White House used lethal force abroad, tried to control what you can put on your passport, told hundreds of thousands of people their legal status is over, asked to fire a central banker, set up a fight to tax your imports at will, and flashed the regulator badge at broadcasters. That is not a governing philosophy. That is a personality type.
If you like presidents who color inside the lines, this is not your era. If you like presidents who treat constraints like yoga, this is your golden age. Either way, the Supreme Court is about to become the busiest bouncer in Washington. The missile video was cut like a music video. The H-1B proclamation dropped late on a Friday. The Erdogan announcement hit with a smile and a shader pass. The Kimmel drama came with government muscle on a podcast. The weapons sale landed with a big round number. That is not coincidence. That is stagecraft.
The job of journalism is to pause the drumbeat and count the beats. Date stamps are oxygen. Friday, September 19th is doing a lot of work. So is Thursday, September 18th. Write them down. When we circle back next week, we will measure what was real and what was B-roll. Rapid recap for your notes. Thursday, September 18th. Supreme Court sets November 5th tariff argument. Thursday, September 18th. Administration asks the court to let it fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Friday, September 19th. New H-1B fee proclamation. Friday, September 19th. Passport filing to block gender marker changes. Friday, September 19th. Third boat strike video. Friday, September 19th. House passes stopgap. Senate blocks it later. Shutdown risk October 1st. Friday, September 19th. White House seeks roughly $6 billion in weapons to Israel. Friday, September 19th. Erdogan visit locked for Thursday, September 25th. October, APEC in South Korea. Trump says he will meet Xi. Tuesday, November 5th. Tariffs, oral arguments.
If you want our producers to cry, ask them to put all that into one lower third. If you want to help them, subscribe. It takes one click. It tells the algorithm you prefer receipts over rants. The legal questions are not nitpicks. Congress has not authorized a war on boats we think are bad. The Constitution gives it the power to declare war, not to watch the White House drop ordnance by press release. Reuters reports the buildup of U.S. assets and the third strike. AP flags growing concern about transparency and legality. If the standard is known drug route, you just expanded lethal force to a guess wrapped in a map.
There is a moral question, too. If a president normalizes killing by clip, you will eventually get a clip that was wrong. That's what oversight is for. Say where, say why, say how you knew. If the answer is trust me, the answer is not good enough. And here's a dark joke to keep us steady. If the policy is now strike and stream, at least add captions that list the statute. Accessibility matters.
The other risk is blowback. Caracas is already calling this an undeclared war. That is the kind of phrase that sails into a UN speech. If this turns into a regional mess, the bill will be paid in more than headlines.
This is civics with teeth. ABC suspends a comedian after he criticizes political leaders for exploiting a killing. Then the head of a federal agency goes on a podcast and essentially says, "Fix the comedian or we fix your license." That is textbook jawboning. ABC News cited Vullo, where the Supreme Court said officials cannot coerce private parties to silence disfavored speech. Ted Cruz, of all people, threw the penalty flag. Fire did too. When allies and critics converge, pay attention.
Two details matter. First, affiliates like Nexstar frame this as a "we did it ourselves" call, because if government pressure is explicit, courts get grumpy. Second, these fights are won on tape. If anyone has audio of "pull the license," that is Exhibit A. Until then, the pattern is the point. A regulator with discretion hinting at pain is not a casual speaker. It is a guy holding your car keys.
A free society can hate jokes. It cannot punish them with state power. Save the punishments for crimes, not punchlines.
The tariff cases coming November 5th are not abstract. They decide whether a president can slap taxes on your imports under an elastic emergency standard. SCOTUS blog has the docket. Reuters confirms the date. If the court draws a fence, we get a textbook on limits. If it waves the convoy through, future presidents will treat tariffs like a dimmer switch.
And here's the part politicians pretend not to know. Businesses do not eat tariffs like a charity buffet. They pass them on. Your grocery bill, your home renovation, your auto parts. The China pays line was always a fairy tale for people who like simple stories. AP reports the administration wants SCOTUS to bless a rule that strips the X marker and forces birth-sex-only passports. SCOTUS blog shows the filings. It is not only demeaning, it is dangerous. Try an airport with an ID that contradicts your body and your voice, then tell me it is paperwork. This is state power used to erase identity.
The tell here is insistence. No one benefits in security terms. It just signals that difference loses when it meets the state. That is not order. That is dominance. Courts are there to stop the latter from dressing as the former. We will see if they remember. Reuters, The Guardian, Al Jazeera, and top immigration firms all say the same thing. A flat $100,000 per worker per year, not per company, per worker, effective almost at once. If the aim was to protect jobs, the result will be to export them. You cannot invent a workforce out of thin air while finding the one you already depend on. The joke writes itself. We will be the high-tech capital of the world, says the administration, while stapling a parking ticket to every engineer's forehead. Meanwhile, Canada says, hello, neighbor. Reuters and AP say the administration wants nearly $6 billion in Apache helicopters and thousands of infantry vehicles. There is a way to do this that respects security and civilians. It is called conditionality. Tie the weapons to compliance and accountability. Otherwise, you are writing a check with someone else's conscience. The timing is instructive. When domestic headlines curdle, big foreign numbers appear. If you approve it, you own it. If you oppose it, say why. But spare us the slogans. Slogans do not learn from funerals. USCIS posted the Syria termination alert. Reuters and the Post added detail on the 60-day window. That is not enough time to dismantle a life you built while the US said stay. And the parallel bid to kill Venezuelan TPS is a numbers game dressed as law. Courts will have their say. People will have to pack boxes in the meantime.
Dark humor to survive the bleak. The administration says temporary means temporary, unless you are talking about emergency tariffs, which apparently means forever. English is hard. ABC and AP cover the emergency request to oust Lisa Cook. SCOTUS blog has the case entry. This is a stress test of whether central bank independence is a norm or a law. Markets like boring bankers who do not report to the West Wing. If the president can fire a governor when the rate cut was not spicy enough, your 401k is now a contestant on reality TV.
A president picking fights with comedians is a news cycle. A president picking fights with the Fed is a recession audition. Pick your theater wisely. Comedy Interlude 1. The administration's legal theory walked into a bar. Bartender asked for ID. The theory said emergency. Bartender said that is not ID. The theory said it is now. The bartender said that will be $100,000 per engineer.
Interlude 2. FCC chair threatens licenses. Ted Cruz calls it dangerous. Somewhere, a constitutional law professor fainted and then got up to frame the quote.
Interlude 3. A boat explodes and the caption is basically, trust me. I trust math, I trust dates, I do not trust a government that treats oversight like spoilers for a movie we paid for.
Quick ask that actually matters. Tell us in the comments which of these you want tomorrow's deep dive on. The tariff case, the passport rule, or the FCC jawboning. We bring your best questions on air and pin the smart ones.
If you want independent voices to survive algorithmic headwinds and government side-eye, subscribe. It is free, it keeps this show in circulation, and it tells the platform you value facts over fan fiction.
Share this segment with the one person who still thinks both sides did this. Then ask them to circle the dates on a calendar. The dates do not care about jerseys.
House passed the CR by 217 to 212. Then the Senate blocked that version 44 to 48. Both parties had their own failing plan. Shutdown risk on October 1st.
Multiple legal trackers say challenges to the tariff regime will create chaos either way. If the court narrows executive power, brace for paperwork. If not, brace for everything to be an emergency forever.
Erdogan says the visit will promote a shared vision for global peace. I support that sentence as an aspiration and will grade the homework on Thursday.
Xi meeting at APEC could tee up ag exports. Farmers will judge by deliveries, not selfies.
The latest boat clip was posted with war movie energy. Critics say the law is missing from the trailer. We agree.
Fire's statement on the FCC threat was spicy. Free speech groups do not usually hand out scarlet letters. They did.
USCIS's Syria TPS notice has a date. Benefits end November 21st after a 60-day runway. That is not a runway. That is a diving board.
The Israel package will push through committees fast. If you are a lawmaker, do the work now. Don't pretend later you were shocked when the bill came due.
The H-1B policy has a lawsuit magnet attached. Companies will seek injunctions before the Monday morning commute.
If the Supreme Court term becomes all Trump all the time, it is because the executive branch is stress testing every hinge in the Constitution. Judges are referees, not players. Make Congress do its job.
Here is the shape of it. Concentrate power, expand emergencies, police identity, pressure media, treat courts like co-managers, wage policy by video, then call it strength.
And here is the counteroffer. Laws, not vibes. Oversight, not applause. Dignity in documents, not humiliation. Independent institutions, not hand puppets. We can be safe without being ruled by spectacle. Dates locked. Thursday, September 18th. Supreme Court schedules November 5th tariff arguments. Thursday, September 18th. Trump seeks emergency order to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook. Friday, September 19th. Proclamation imposing a $100,000 annual H-1B fee. Friday, September 19th. Administration asks SCOTUS to block gender marker choice on passports. Friday, September 19th. Third lethal strike video in the SOUTHCOM theater. Friday, September 19th. House passes stopgap. Friday evening, Senate blocks it. Shutdown risk October 1st. Friday, September 19th. Administration seeks nearly $6 billion in weapons for Israel. Thursday, September 25th. Erdogan at the White House. Next month, APEC in South Korea. Trump says he will meet Xi. Tuesday, November 5th. Tariffs argued at SCOTUS. Print it, tape it, hold us to it.
Final roasts for the road. Threatening TV licenses because a comic was mean is the constitutional version of throwing soup at a painting. Everybody gets mad. The painting does not change.
Making passports mislabel people is a bureaucratic way to say you do not like them. Government is not a bully. Government is a set of rules that should protect you from bullies.
If your immigration policy is a fee so high it looks like ransom, do not be surprised when the future happens somewhere else.
We are America Facticity. We take your questions, not your Kool-Aid. Comment your deep dive pick for tomorrow. Subscribe so the algorithm learns a new trick. Share this with one friend who still thinks dates do not matter. Dates always win.
See you tomorrow at 9 p.m. ET. Keep your receipts, keep your hope, keep your sense of humor. You will need all three.